What's up, everyone? I'm so glad that you're joining me this week. I'm your host, Ryan McCarty. We talk about everything people, culture, engagement. So this week, I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to Champion Your Culture. What's up, George? We're back.
What's up?
Yo, this is episode 22. Now, we've been doing this for 22 weeks. We've been talking about champion people, culture. This has been an interesting ride because it's like we get to talk every single week, you and I, building relationship, and we're building relationship with so many cool people out on social media, friends that are jumping on with us live, listening later on. I know we got some amazing people that we've been sending t-shirts to and books and all kinds of different gifts, and just building connection with people has been one of the coolest things with this podcast, man.
Man, it's been great. You know me, and you and I are both alike. We genuinely love people. One,
yeah,
maybe
figure that out.
And it's been a great opportunity to meet so many different people on all platforms. Right, we're live here on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, stream as well, and then we're on Apple, Spotify, and other platforms as well. And so wherever you're checking us out at, wherever you've joined this Champion Your Culture network, we're excited. We're happy to have you. We appreciate you giving us it's really an honor for you to give us your time. And we try to keep this within 30 minutes every Wednesday. Sometimes if we have guests, it's a little bit more. But we appreciate the time that you've given us. And we appreciate our sponsor, Champion Your Culture podcast, which is Culture Good. Representing the new shirt today.
I love it.
Sweet shirt. It feels good.
We got both the shirts on. They're nice, aren't they? Nice and soft. If anybody gives us what is it? A review?
Yeah, just like, subscribe, whether Spotify or Apple. If you're sharing on LinkedIn, tag us in the LinkedIn post. Let's give out 3 or 4 shirts today.
All right, awesome. So if we see your name pop up, you've shared it, you've commented, we'll let you know. If you win after this podcast, we'll send you a shirt, some other gifts. So again, want to thank you for jumping on. George, we've got so many cool things that have been happening at Culture of Good. And this podcast is one of them. Over this last year has really been a way for us to say what really needs to be explored in terms of leadership and how we're leading our culture forward and doing the things that we need to do, more than just managing or being a boss, but really leading. And that's why when we talk about championing culture, we're really talking about leading people, right? We're talking about championing culture by leading people really well, leading the organization, and recognizing that business is human. Yeah. And every leader, and I've been saying this lately, and I think it's been resonating with a lot of people, that if you're in business, regardless of what your product or service is, you are in the business of well-being. Because you are leading people, you have teams, you have team members, all of them, every single one of them being human, and really being able to be exactly who they are and accomplish what they can accomplish only when they have that well-being built into their everyday work and life. And so as leaders, we have to recognize, we really determine the health of our organization and also the health of our team members. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. Because of the impact that we can have and that control, and responsibility. I say control, and I mean responsibility. We have that responsibility and that due diligence as leaders. And sometimes we always talk about leadership, what leadership is. And then there's oftentimes as well, right, that sometimes leadership is thrown onto a title when the person is really not created, and I almost say created or develop who they are as a leader. And those are scary times when we talk about culture killers. Sometimes it's not intentional culture killers, right? It's just people that are new, that has a title, that's been loyal to a company for a long time, and or got this title, and now they got people underneath them. And the first thing they do is just get straight to work versus developing who they are as a leader, or the company providing that. And so that's where we come in, by the way. We'll help you bring in leadership skills. But in all realness, Ryan, we have the culture killers that are intentional and non-intentional, and some of that non-intentional is the scariest because of the damage it can do from a well-being standpoint. When we talk about well-being, we're talking about the physical health,
Yeah.
the mental health, the financial well-being, right? There's so many different portions of that. The social, when somebody
Yeah.
gets shut down, like myself, there is a times, and people won't believe this, but I'll go introvert in a minute,
Yeah.
underneath
Yeah.
that leadership, where I would just stay in the box. We call that checking the box, right? Where you just do your job. Today they call it modern day, it's called quiet quitting, other stuff.
Yeah. Right.
In reality, it's really I don't have respect or receive respect from my leader, and so my social well-being is shut down. And so you have that as substance. What happens when all those things are triggered, and then there's bad habits in the social life and the substance abuse support. And then how does that affect you as a parent if you're a mom or a dad or an aunt or an uncle? There's so much into that. Well-being is a deep-seated human's need, and it exists at an intersection of numerous aspects of our health.
Yeah, and I don't think we realize how much our management within our organizations is impacting our culture. Like
Yeah.
I think we know it. I'm not sure that there's many of us that fully know what to do in those cases. I know a lot of companies that we work with, and again, we do everything culture development and leadership development. So if you have any aspect of your culture that could use some work, we certainly like to build on what's great about your culture. And then we also are looking at the leadership development aspect because who owns the culture? Like, who's the driver of the culture? We
Mhm.
know that all of us deliver the culture. We're all a part of it. We all have engagement within the culture, but in terms of who's driving the culture, it's leadership. And what's interesting is so many times with the companies that I've worked for and work with Culture of Good, what we recognize is that so many times we think that we can promote someone from management to leadership by giving them authority. So the idea is if I have a manager that's really skilled in what they do, if I give them authority and promote them to a leadership position, then somehow by this like giving of authority, they transition from management to leadership, and that's not the case. As you know, all you have now is a manager with more authority.
Right.
We don't promote managers to leaders. We empower managers to leaders. So we equip them, give them the knowledge, ability, skills to be able to lead a team. It's very different managing a project than it is leading a team. And I think that leadership culture within business, if you don't have leadership development in your business, if that's not a part of what you do, I would challenge every single one of us that are on here, whether you have the authority to make the decision or not, begin to engage with Culture of Good, and let's start having this conversation on what would it look like within your organization to even bring some leadership development in to be able to empower managers and giving and equipping them to be able to not just be promoted into a position, because we know leadership is not a position. Leadership is about how we are within a team, and how we're using our skills and how we're empowered to be able to lead that team from point A to a better point B, right? So we're leading people, but in doing so, we have to recognize that the health of our organization really comes down to the health of our leadership culture.
Yeah, that's so good. Can you say it again? You said we don't promote managers, we equip,
We empower.
we empower.
Yeah, you can't promote a manager to a leadership position.
Yeah.
There's no
But
such thing as a leadership position. There's a
yeah,
management position. Leadership is not a position. Leaders can have a position.
yeah,
I always tell people, it's kind of the background of our like the pastor thing that we used to do is like if you
yeah,
walk into a room and you want to see what the culture is about, look for the leaders, and if you want to find the leaders, look for the person serving,
right.
right? Look for the person who's actively engaged and being the example of what the overall culture is going to be. And that's why leaders can be more than just those that impact or influence a culture. you might get one leader into an organization depending upon what size that organization is and how much authority they have, and they can actually completely kill the culture of your business, where you have to go back in and, after the dust settles, begin to rebuild. And this is what we're talking about today, is not just leaders that are maybe toxic or need to get attitude, have a little better of a positive. We're talking about, like, what does it mean to have a leader that can actually kill your culture, right?
Yeah.
And then what do you do about the culture killers within your business? So we've come up with 5 culture killers. Do you want to go through those now, or do you want to give it a second? Do you want to
Oh,
add
I
anything
mean,
before we go
let's
in?
start, because I don't want to have not enough time at the end. So let's get into these five, Ryan. I put in there when you said that, and I heard you say empower, but when I heard empower, the first thing that came to my mind is equip. And
Mhm.
and I'm a king of acronyms, and so off the top of my head, I'm thinking, man, how do we equip people? Right? We want to empower them, which is the E in equip. We want to give them quality, impact, and then unify them with integrity and purpose. And so there you go, equip, empower, quality,
Mm.
and you really want to do that, right? And so things that we say and we believe are 5 leaders or 5 types of leaders that are opposite. Right? You want to throw the first one up there. Let's really talk about
Yeah.
the impressive leader, right? The impressive leader, those who talk more than they walk, right? It's
Yeah.
the whole, what was that old song back in the day? Practice what you preach. You tell
Oh
your
yeah.
this.
Or like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Or you could do Michael Jackson. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I
Exactly.
mean, it's like, if you're a leader, the impressive leader, we all know who this person is. They'd like people to like them,
Ooh,
more than they do understand what it means to actually lead them,
yeah,
right? And so that really creates a scenario where your culture can be killed if you have a leader or leaders within your organization that are more focused on, oh my god, I hope people like me, more than they actually do want to work on the culture and address real issues that are going on. That's the problem with the impressive leader. The
yeah.
impressive leader is really the leader that cares more about the team or people liking them than actually doing what needs to be done for the organization, the culture, to be successful.
Yeah, and that tends to be what, that if they're searching for likes and the light to be on them, and the rewards and the attention, it says a lot about them as an individual. When I think of an impressive leader that wants to be impressed, that look at me, put me out there, it's somebody who's also lack of identity and lack of acceptance of who they are, and they need
Mm,
that attention. Sometimes it's coming because they didn't get it when they were younger, they didn't get it
yeah,
growing up in high school, and now that they're in a position to get it, it's the honor of the king mentality.
yeah,
And when that is not there, or if somebody else around them has that, it kills them to not be that person, right? And so
right,
then they destroy and or put down the person that may be receiving the life that they want, right? They don't care about the culture, they care about the likes. And when Ryan's getting all the likes and George is not, man, shame on Ryan. And and
yeah.
and Ryan probably won't be around long enough.
Right. Right. I mean, that's the idea, I think one of the reason that this kills the culture is because, again, we leaders are those who embody the culture, right? Like, they're the example. I mean, if you want to look at what is the culture of our business, just look at the leadership.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we know culture is how most people feel, believe, and behave, but that's how most people are going to feel, is based on how they see their leadership. And if leaders within your business are just really, that's that impressive kind of culture, where it's like, I hope people like me, then what happens is it becomes the very culture of the business, where things aren't being dealt with. Its leaders are really exemplifying that at the end of the day, our main goal is for us to just like each other, rather than getting what needs to be done within the business. And we have to understand, if we don't drive the business to success, if we don't hold people accountable, this is the problem with having a leader that wants to be liked all the time. How do they keep a culture of accountability, and And that doesn't mean holding people's feet to the fire. That just means saying this is our expectation, and we need to follow these expectations, and we have these policies and procedures that we follow. If you have a leader or you're a manager that is more interested in people liking you than not, then what happens is we lose sight of what needs to be done in terms of what it's going to take for our team to be successful. And we're just more concerned about ourselves as a person, whether people like us or not, because we're more concerned about us being successful. And we think that the successful leader is a leader that's liked more than other leaders, right? Or other people.
Yeah.
Because that's generally when you have a leader, people like them.
Yeah.
but being liked as a leader is a result of being respected, not as a result of you just not setting boundaries, or you allowing the culture to be whatever it is because you're more concerned about you than you are about the actual team,
Yeah.
and driving that forward. Sometimes you want to be liked, so you keep somebody on the team that is not good for the team, or they could be toxic to their peers. But again, that likability piece matters, but that's not the key to you really being a solid leader. Being a solid leader goes way beyond that. Second one that we talk about here isn't just the impressive leader. We know this one, the suppressive leader, right? The
Yeah.
one who does have, like, all right, let's hold people's feet to the fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Micromanage.
there it is, man.
I
Yeah,
mean,
talk about that
yeah.
one.
So the micromanagement, it's that, the person that, and sometimes this type of leader tries their best to describe themselves as someone who just wants to help direct you in the workplace. And what it really means is that I want to control you within the workplace. I want to be
Right.
on your every appointment. I want to know everything that you're doing. And the micro leader, typically, and the person who micromanages, struggles with the word trust. Right?
Mm,
They're there a lot because they don't trust that you're going to do it quite like they would, or maybe to the best standard that they would. Maybe this leader is sometimes great at what they do, and they've seen that in order to grow the business, they got to delegate responsibility, but they don't trust the people that they delegate to, right? And so they
yeah.
suppress them without even giving them the opportunity to fully be who they are in that role. So they're trying to do their best to delegate, but at the same time, they're killing the momentum of somebody that they may respect, right? In the
Sure.
first one, when I think of impressive leader, I think of somebody who doesn't truly fully function with respect and accepting and really appreciating that person that they have. And so maybe there's some there, but the impressive leader doesn't fully do so. And a suppressive leader, I feel like there's a respect there because, hey, I picked you to be in this position, but I don't know if I accept that you fully have what it takes to be who I would be if I was in your role and in that position. And so it creates that toxic experience because we're always having the answer to the question, or we are mentally wondering, I wonder if my leader is going to come over me and try to manage what I'm doing or try to critique what I'm doing versus fully allow me to fail. If I'm going to
Yeah.
do it and it does not work, let me fail at it and then lead me and guide me. But a suppressive leader won't even let you fall. If they see that the situation is unbalanced, and sometimes great things come from a fall, right? It's
Right.
that mindset, but a suppressive leader really does not allow the aspects and the characteristics of being brave, being bold, risking, right, going all
Yeah.
in and taking a risk for that opportunity.
This is interesting because it's like it just hit me as you were talking. The impressive leader wants to be liked. The suppressive leader thinks that the more they're hated, the more of a leader they are. Right? I mean, it's like this, like it doesn't maybe look like abuse, but it can be very abusive,
Yeah,
right? It can, I mean, we've all had those leaders that don't allow us to fully be ourselves for many reasons, right? Their own lack of self-esteem. They're intimidated by strong leaders, and those that know themselves really well. this is what you're talking about earlier on with identity as a leader. If you don't know yourself, if you don't have self-awareness, you can easily fall into one of these two areas, wanting to be liked or loved, right? The impressive leader, more concerned about how people feel about them than whether the business is reaching its goals and is successful. And then here we are with the suppressive leader that is leading based on distrust. The question never should be, how come our team members don't trust us? The answer to that question is, you must not trust them, because trust is something that, again, is exemplified through leadership. And if you have a suppressive leader, or a leader that's always got their thumb on people and coming down on people and has that heavy hand of leadership or management, that suppressiveness really will push people not only down, but it'll push people out of the organization. It actually kills the culture within the business. And really what we have to do is we have to find ways to hold people accountable. And we do this through the culture of good in our process, but keep people accountable to that, without using intimidation, without using fear tactics, like,
Yeah.
no, you remember that show, Fear? What was it?
Fear
What
factor.
was it? Fear Factor. Yeah,
Rogan.
Yeah. I mean, some of us feel like going into work on Monday morning is going on Fear Factor, because we have like anxiety. I mean, there's some people right now that are on with us on this podcast that feel anxiety when they go to work every day because of what
Yeah.
they're going to face with a suppressive leader. So that's a big one, man. Number 3, obviously the inattentive leader, right? Like,
Yeah.
the leader that's just
Are you
maybe
there?
not checked out, but there's just zero urgency. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's just like they just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah, it's the main concern based on other it's priorities in the business is they're the chill manager. In fact, I found that employees that are not all in with the company, that don't have a desire to grow and or are comfortable within the position that they are. There's no motivation, right? It's just a person that just show up. It's a check every week or every other week.
Yeah.
Those employees love the inattentive leader because that leader's not always there, not always holding people accountable, right? It's just that there's no sense of urgency, and there's a feel. And so they are comfortable being behind that person because nobody's pushing them to grow, be better, or be held accountable. They're there, but not there, in a sense of when it comes to priorities in the business and in the workplace, what's important, what's value. And so this person is great for people, and sadly, a lot of things on the downward spectrum, especially on the well-being, right? If I'm struggling with mental health, I don't want to be under a leader
Yeah.
that's inattentive. If I'm struggling, and let's face it, we all say that our personal life is not the responsibility of our leaders in our workplace life. But a
Mhm.
good leader will lead people and understand that their personal life can affect the production of their workplace life. And so, in doing so, as a leader, for me, I care about all of you because the best you is the best that I can have, the best that the workplace can have. And so, it's important as a leader to not be inattentive, right? You want to be attentive to the person that you're leading because how they are doing and feeling, behaving, right? May be impacted at their home life, and so it's my duty, my responsibility, not to make sure their personal life is great, but to be there and care for them. An
Yeah,
inattentive
man.
person doesn't show a lot of those traits. They may care, but they don't show it. They're just there. There's not a lot of discussion. There's not a lot of attention, right?
That's
And
it.
so when somebody is in that mindset, there's not a lot of transparency going on in that aspect of an inattentive leader. They're just there, man. They're the I call the inattentive leader. This may sound harsh, but
Nah, go ahead.
can I just be honest? I'll be honest, and I'll put it in my personal life. So I'll be very vulnerable here.
Yeah.
Um, an inattentive leader reminds me. For me, I grew up. I never met my biological father, on a relationship level. I saw him once at a funeral. when I was very, very young, and that's based on what I was told, right? So my memories of my biological father are not
Mm,
there. I met a guy, and I have a friend who had a father in their life, but the father wasn't really attentive. It was an inattentive father, right? And my analogy of that is it's like having an arm that you can't use. I'd rather
mm,
not have the arm than to have the arm and have to see the lack of use for it, right? The inattentive
ah,
leader is there, but it's not active, and that causes more distraught and pain having it and not being able to use it than to not have it at all. Sometimes this leader is one of the most destructive because they're there, but they're not impactful. And that hurts to see it,
mm.
to not see it for the person. So there's two types of people that love the inattentive leader, and then there's people that is held back by this person because they have the potential and they want to be more, but the inattentive leader is not fair to help direct them. They're there, but they're not useful.
I love it, man. I mean, really, at the end of the day, what you give attention to shows what you prioritize, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't give attention to people, if you don't give attention to the culture, and you're inattentive, and there's all kinds of reasons why leaders maybe even started off very connected and engaged, but over time they become inattentive because they're burnout or stressed or competing priorities. So
Yeah.
I would challenge everyone out there to say, okay, I'm at work, am I really here?
Right.
Am I present? I'm
Yeah.
here, I'm in proximity, but am I present, right? And that's a
Mm.
really big thing. Defensive leader, the leader the leader that no matter what happens, they'll take the credit for the good, but at the end of the day, anything that is off or isn't working, it rarely has anything to do with them. And if anyone ever brings that up, they immediately become defensive. And when we become defensive, it shows there's realities of truth
Yeah.
that we're dealing with internally. Again, our own sense of self-awareness, what we desire, the direction we're headed in life, the things that we work with executives and leaders in business, you and I, as we coach all the time, we are dealing with this reality that you cannot, regardless of what other aspects of what we're talking about are within a leader. If they might be impressive, they might be suppressive. If they're a defensive leader, this is a complete kind of shut down, and they put up the wall, and they block off, and they simply live in a state of defense rather than offense. We're not moving forward as a business with leaders like this. We're
Yeah.
being held back. We're making excuses for ourselves, maybe even for our team that we lead, because when we see failure, we don't want our team to fail, like you were talking about earlier, because that makes us look bad, because maybe we have a leader above us that's suppressive, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes our middle management doesn't fully lead in the way that they know they can lead and give people opportunity to fail, because they're concerned about, what am I going to look like?
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. This last one, number five, explosive leader. These are the people that we call it the unreliable, right? It's the
Yeah.
unreliable, emotional, unpredictable. You just don't know what kind of mood they're in. They're really, I call them the thermostat leader because
Hmm.
they're the really, they set the temperature in the culture. And sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad, oftentimes it can be ugly, right? They're untrustworthy with their interactions. You just don't know what type of emotion that they're going to bring to the room, and the dynamic that it could cause, right? It can be a great atmosphere and a great culture, but their behavior oftentimes and not really, really destroys any type of momentum because it's not consistent. Leadership is really consistency of who you are, right? Leadership,
Mm.
like you love, it's consistent on who am I, and who do I want to be, where am I going, and who do I want to be when I get there. And so there's consistency in the direction that we are going, in the direction that we speak, in the direction that we lead. But this explosive leader, Ryan,
Yeah. And
he's
it's not just and it's not just out of anger, right? It's the unpredictability of a leader, and people don't really know what they're going to get.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know who's going to show up that day. They don't know when the stress is high, how that leader's going to present themselves in their own emotional life. And that
Right.
doesn't mean as a leader we're not vulnerable, we're not real in front of people, and we don't struggle and right.
Yeah.
But when we're so unpredictable and unreliable that people really don't know how to interact with us and connect and engage with us, the then that really kills the culture, because to your point, people want to be cared for, cared about. They want leaders to show up. Listen, these 5 leaders can kill culture. The question's going to be, we're gonna phase this. So next week, we're gonna do part 2 of this. I like this part 1, part 2 thing, because part 2 next week, George, is all going to be about what do we do when we have leaders, or what do we do when we recognize that we may be this type of leader? Because we don't
Right.
want to just look at our leaders and say, oh, I see that in Bill, I see that in Susan, that person, yeah, they're suppressive. That's not what this is about. This, now we turn this internally and ask ourselves, where am I being impressive, suppressive, inattentive? Where am I continuing to be defensive, and then also being explosive? How do I see that within myself? And what do I do about that? Because
Yeah.
self-awareness is the very start to this. So next week, we're going to look at what do we do in terms of self-awareness and self-leadership. And we're going to get into a little more of our coaching. And so if you're interested in business or executive coaching, jump on with George and I next week, because we're going to do some interaction and some practice between the two of us. And we're going to act like you're one of these leaders, George, and I'm going to walk you through some coaching. Is that cool?
Hey man, let's do it. It's going to be fun. I think it'd be a great opportunity for people to learn as well. So, as always, I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready for
Awesome.
it. Hey, real quickly before we sign off here, we had a lot of people in our comments today. Once again, we appreciate everybody. Ron and I, what we love to do, sometimes we try to answer these in the live stream, but what we will do is that afterwards, we definitely will go back, respond to a lot of the questions and comments in the chat. So we appreciate everybody. Continue to get that going. As always, we appreciate you for liking, sharing, commenting on this podcast, Champion Your Culture, brought to you by Culture of Good. We appreciate each and every one of you guys and ladies out there for your support and your attention that you provide us. Hey, don't be a culture killer. Be somebody that's going to bring life, be life, and be positive to somebody today.
Yeah, your leadership is the life of your culture. And so live it out. Leadership is about living it, not talking it. So let's all live it this week. We'll see you back next week on Champion
Yeah.
Your
Your culture.
Culture.